My son Joe and I, we are out here putting out some cameras. We got all new Moultrie. I think they're
Edge 2 Pros.
Edge 2 Pros, and they're a lot easier to use, believe it or not, because the other ones were pretty easy to use. The Exodus we were using, but they went out of business, so we're putting out Moultries. And I got my one stick here with double 8ers, and this tree here is loaded with apples. Well, it's not loaded, but it's got lots of apples on it. So I'm going to put a camera on this spot, and this is a really good spot. It's got tons of cover back in here. There's a huge cattail marsh over here with a big pond. That's probably a 5-acre cattail marsh, so it's real easy for deer to come out of this cattail marsh and step right in here to these apple trees. There's another apple tree over there with a few apples on it. You don't have to show it. But when a deer does come in here, I don't have to put 2 cameras out because they'll go to that tree and then they'll come to this tree. They hit both trees at the same time. I used to run 2 cameras, but I was always getting the same deer at both cameras within 10 minutes of each other. So I'm going to put a camera down in this little opening underneath this tree and see what we got here this year.
So here he is. He is up on one stick with 2 8ers. Getting it up as high as he can. More to keep it out of the eyesight of the deer that are going to be coming in. He's setting the mounts where he wants them. We run solar panels as well as the camera. Just like not having to worry about batteries.
Solar panels are cool because batteries become irrelevant.
And with these Moultrie cameras, they will actually run solely on the solar panels. So if you forget your batteries, you can at least get them running and then come back with the backup batteries later.
So the solar panel's mounted. Love using these little screw-in camera holders so you don't have a strap around the tree. And we are up about, this camera will be approximately 12 feet off the ground, 12 to 13, 14 feet, somewhere in there. Plenty high enough where I never have deer looking up at my cameras. If I put them at ground level, they always look at them, and big bucks usually don't come in once they see the camera. Not here. When we go travel hunt out of state, it doesn't make any difference. We always put them at ground level. But not in Michigan. I actually had a gentleman send me a photo of his new location yesterday, and was kind of a great spot, had a lot of security cover. He was hunting next to an oak, he was hunting out of a black walnut tree, and for his camera, he watches too much TV because he actually buried a post, a black and white post, right out in the wide open, and had his camera on top of it pointing underneath the white oak that would drop an acorn. Now here, you wouldn't get a shot of the mature buck here like that. A buck here would spook. I don't know, I didn't ask him what state he's from. I just emailed him back that you may want to consider moving your camera because he had it basically about 5 feet off the ground on a half black and half white post. And you're going to see that big time, and mature bucks are not going to come into that during daylight hours. So where you mount your cameras is a big deal. Not like TV where it doesn't matter what the hell you do and you're going to get shot. Some people watch too much TV shows and think that they can replicate what TV guys do and still have success where they're in the type of property on that's pressured. That can't be farther from the truth. The TV guys, in my opinion, don't have a clue what they're doing. They're just hunting places like on a zoo where it doesn't matter what they do. They're going to get shots, and they know that. Also want to show the mounts I'm using. So I'm using that raw steel one that's kind of rusted up a little bit. That's what I'm using for my solar panel. And then that one I painted gray is what I'm using for the camera. So I don't have straps around my trees. They just, straps around trees here, don't get it. It doesn't manage properties, and there's a lot of managed properties up in Michigan where guys are shooting nice bucks, but on heavily pressured public or private, heavily pressured private, they spook from straps. You'll see a buck there once, and then that'll be it. Put a black strap around a gray tree, it doesn't work. So these are pretty much hidden behind the camera and behind the solar panel. Can't even see them. You can see the solar panel in the camera sticking out the side of the tree, but you can't see these because there's no off-colored strap going around the backside or around the whole tree. Just to give guys an idea, that's a cell camera by Moultrie. That's one of our new ones, and I only put those on private. I think I'll put one on public in a spot where I'm definitely not worried about anybody stealing it, and it has good coverage. But these other ones, I've already put out a few. These are Browning Black Ops, I believe. Some of these are 10 years old. The other ones are like 5 maybe. The smaller ones are 5 years old. And these bigger ones, these are probably 10 years old. But I've got about 15 of those. And those are what I put out on public land. And I don't put them at locations. I typically put them in places just to get an inventory. If they get stolen, it's not a big deal. They're like 90 bucks a piece. But I have to check SD cards, and I only do it maybe once a week at the most. And I go in with snot locks. But that one that's got a strap on it, because the screw in the part's broke. I've got 2 that are broke, so I have to use a strap. But I put them up pretty high, and I put a stick behind it to angle it down. But these Brownings have been great cameras if you just want it. Straight SD cards. You know, they don't make a flash. They're super nice cameras. And I believe these Moultries are going to be pretty decent. They've got a 100-foot range. The Exodus cameras we had an 80-foot range. So these have a longer range, and they're very simple to use. There's your mama. That's why I did videos on entries and exits during season. You don't want to walk along the edge of the swamp. This is not during season. This is quite a ways before season. And I bumped a doe and a fawn bedded on the edge. So when you walk edges, there's an excellent chance of spooking deer. Now here's that fawn coming back looking for mom. She circled around. Me. I think there's another deer in the background. There's the fawn, and you can see that brown spot. Behind the fawn. We're at one of my favorite spots. I've killed a couple of really good bucks at this spot. Standing underneath an apple tree right now, Joe is, and it's loaded with apples. This hasn't had apples for 3 years. So you can just tell by the ground right here, they've already been in here looking for apples. Not many have dropped yet. Spin around and just scan that branch right up there. Right up there. That's how loaded this tree is with apples. Certain sections of it have more apples than others. Another section over here has that many apples on it. But this is a really unique spot, and it's a spot where I'll be hunting out of that red oak, that big red oak right there. I'm up above that crotch. If you can see that crotch way up there, I'm just peeking through that crotch, watching the activity. And typically when a big buck comes out to this location here, he comes out of these autumn olives. That's how security cover oriented deer are in pressured areas. But this here, they come out of this security cover of this autumn olive. They'll eat a few apples on the back side underneath these branches right here, where you just showed all those apples, and then they'll turn around and go back into the security cover to exit. They don't come out here in this big open area over here, because there will be apples over here. You can see these branches are loaded. Apples will drop here and kind of roll down this hill, kind of like these right here. Here's a couple right here. There's deer droppings right under. In fact, that's deer droppings on the actual apple. So, you know, that's a chip shot from that tree. But I usually will have 1.5 year old and possibly a 2.5 year old little 8-point come in here and eat in this exposed area. I've never had a big buck come into this open area. As little as this is, they still don't like it being open. So they'll eat right back there, just with their butts up against that autumn olive. They'll eat some apples back in that security cover. And got a cattail marsh. There's a big marsh down here, marsh mixed with some dead timber. And the deer will come out of that kind of swamp back there, come on down here through these cattails, come up into these autumn olives and circle around and eat a couple apples back there. And I have shots through this tree. I've raped this tree, cutting branches. The farmer, this is one of my 2 permission properties. The farmer let me cut this tree up. So I can physically, from my tree, shoot to a deer, a buck, standing on that back edge by those autumn olives. And that's something to keep in mind. If you've got a spot where you're hunting a destination location like a oak tree or an apple tree or a chestnut tree or a down south persimmon tree, if the best security cover is going to be on the back side of that tree from where you're hunting, make sure you trim the tree so you got a shot to the edge of that security cover, because there's going to be an excellent chance that buck is going to come through the security cover, eat whatever it is on the edge, turn around and leave. He's not going to come out into the exposed areas like the does and the fawns and the subordinate bucks. So that's a big, big deal. Now I'm going to actually, because there's another apple tree over here, you don't have to pan it, but it has no apples in it. So this is going to be the destination spot for this area. This is going to be the best tree on this property this fall, because we've got a little hill coming up here that got standing corn on top and swamp down here. So you got security cover through security cover through security cover, autumn olives through security cover. This place has tons of security cover, even once the foliage is down. So I'm going to put a camera probably about 18 feet up this tree, shining right down probably into this area over here to get an inventory. Because most of the apples are going to be dropping right here. This is where the majority of the apples are overhead. So this is about an 18-yard shot. I have to take a couple of these branches out of here. But other than that, this will likely be my shot right through here. Possibly, Joe, get over there. That's my tree. You can see this opening that I get to shoot through. And it took me hours to clear this shot path through this apple tree. There used to be branches hanging out over there. They all had to go because I had to have this shot to the edge of this security cover. Pressured areas, it's all about security cover, security cover, security cover. Never forget that. On TV, you can hunt it's like hunting in a zoo. You can hunt a wide open field. It can be a hay field, a picked corn field, a food plot. You can have a totally exposed big box blind. It's sitting in there with a bow, and you'll get your shots. TV show guys actually make me sick. It just sickens me to watch how easy it is to kill deer on TV. And that's what people that are anti-hunters and PETA, that's what they think hunting is. And that's so far out of reality what real hunting is that it's sickening to me. Anyway, that's enough of that. Yeah, something else about the TV guys that drives me crazy is a lot of people don't realize the TV guys, if they want to, they can kill a big buck probably 1 out of every 2 hunts, if not 1 out of every 1 hunt. They can hold off and only hunt evenings. They don't have to hunt mornings. They can sleep in the mornings because most of their shots are around food-based trees or food plots or picked cornfields. So they obviously don't hunt in the mornings because they're spooking deer with their entries. And they kill deer usually, if they want to, 1 out of every 2, 3 hunts at the most. I statistically kill a buck about 1 out of every 20 hunts in Michigan, which is about 5% of the time. When I go out of state, it's about, to like Iowa or Kansas or Indiana, I kill a buck out of like 1 out of every 6 or 7 hunts. So it goes from 1 out of 6 or 7 out of state and lightly hunted areas, which are nothing like TV zoo lands or fantasy lands, And on pressured properties, if I'm lucky, it's 1 out of 20 sits, I get an opportunity to shoot a big buck. Hunting pressure realities is a big thing, and you need to know what type of hunting pressure the area you're hunting in has, and hunt accordingly and set your criteria accordingly. And in my new book series, I have an entire chapter on hunting pressure realities. I think it's that important that somebody, and it's early in the book, volume 1, and it's early in the book because I want people to read all the different levels of hunting pressure, starting out with enclosures, which there's no hunting pressure. That's a 1 sit, 1 kill, but you pay 15 grand for a P&Y or 20. Then you got TV guys, that's ultra managed property, and that's damn near the same as an enclosure. It's not, but it's damn near the same because they control so much land and they don't have to worry about their deer leaving and crossing the fence and somebody else killing it. And then you get into pay to hunt ranches, that would be the next level. And then you get into regular managed properties like most people do. Most people, if they own 50, 80, 100 acres, a lot of them do, you know, they manage their properties. And that's nothing like TV stuff. That's nothing. I mean, they still have to work for the deer they kill, although they're easier to kill a mature buck there than it would be on, let's say, public land. So, you know, you go from enclosures to ultra-managed TV stuff. Then you go to pay to hunts. Then you go to regular managed properties like most of you are familiar with. And then you go to just regular private properties where there may be 15 houses in a 640 acre mile section. And each house has 1 or 2 bow hunters. So you might have on opening day 15 to 30 bow hunters in the section, you know. And then after opening day, you know, that dwindles down. You may have, on average, 10 or 15 hunters every day in the section. And then you get to public lands, which is different, because on public land, you don't have any control over anything. You have zero control. Anybody can do whatever they want, whenever they want, wherever they want. At least on even a small private parcel, you have some control over what you're doing. So that there's so many levels of hunting pressure that I felt that Hunting Pressure Realities chapter, which is relatively long, is something everybody needs to read to understand how hunting pressure affects daytime deer movements. And it's very critical. The more pressure there is, the more security oriented all mature buck movements are during daylight hours. So I have my camera set up in the tree that I'm hunting from, pointing down at that old scrape, which was right down there. And outside the solar panel, they're on a side branch kicking out